Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Sam Hawksmoor. We're going to be talking again. We've done a number of shows on his books before, but we've got a new book to talk about today, Mission Longshot. It's takes us on a journey that not only what is possible, but what a discovery of ourselves for adversity and struggle. His books always leave you wanting more and reflecting on your own life. He writes for both youth and adult genres, but each book takes you to an adventure and a wonderment of the what ifs in life. The Mission Longshot, Sam's latest book, is an alignment. It seems always such an innocent word. We always seem to expect the stars to align one day in our favor, or with good planning, everything might fall into place before the battle. It's a positive word until it isn't. Then suddenly everything aligns against you with such overwhelming force. There's little you can do to prevent the disaster. And this is what that story is all about. We've also going to be discussing all his other books today, which I invite you just to go to Sam Hawksmoor here on selfdiscoverymedia.com, and you'll see the whole list of his books and other shows that we've done before. The last one we did was We Feel Your Pain, So You Don't Have to, which was a wonderful book, and I highly recommend everybody get out and read that as well. But this one is a youth genre, right? It's a totally different book. But again, it's about that adventure. It's about what is possible against all adversity, how coming together makes the difference, and that fighting for one life is worth fighting for. Welcome back, Sam.
Hi, Sarah.
We have
Well,
to...
here I is.
He's...
And yes, Mission Longshot is the new one. And the subtitle sums it all up. Is how far would you go to save one life?
Yeah. And, you know, we see that in the movies. It's the cost of many lives to go and save the one life. And what's significant about that one life? But very often it is the saving of that one life isn't just about the one life. It's about what that one life represents. And in this case, she's representing something.
In this particular story, it's pretty much of a literary trope, and there are a number of movies similar to it, where you send off mankind to start again somewhere as our planet is going to hell, right? You know, the climate, the weather, politics, you name it, really, pandemics.
War.
Takes place, the actual colony flight takes place in 2032. And at a rush, they had built this spaceship and they put 3,000 children in it. And they will all be educated by osmosis, right? So they learn as they sleep. And the idea is on a 70-year journey right across the other side of the universe. They will arrive at this planet that they hope will be a new Earth and start a new life. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the book, a asteroid strike hits the ship, and one girl wakes up, or is woken rather abruptly, to discover that she's the only survivor. And it's a terrifying prospect because you're already trillions of miles from Earth.
Right.
You know, no one is going to come to rescue you.
Right.
Your nails are 6 inches long. Your hair is down to your feet. You look disgusting. Your flesh is white slug. And she's got to learn to walk and talk again.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in stasis, that's in not a lockdown, but in a life pod for 23 years. And she knows the moment when she finally, gets compos mentis and the robot medic has sort of injected her with enough fluids that she can really start to think again. And he rather depressingly tells her that you've got 72 years to live on her own in a crippled spaceship in
Right.
space.
Yes.
Never, the only person you could possibly speak to is a maintenance robot. So that's the premise, if you like.
Right.
Meanwhile, on Earth, her father, who is the father of the engine designer of that spaceship she was in, has progressed to developing a light-speed spaceship. Unfortunately, the moon base where he works is littered with $8 billion light speed failures that all have blown up.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have to an emergency test of the one who's just finished, which is going to be piloted by an AI system, but also B, his niece Stella, who looks just like the girl who's on the spaceship 23 light years away or whatever.
They're cousins, right?
And that's the premise. They say, well, you know, we were going to do a test, but we've got to go and save my daughter. And there are a lot of risks involved. And so what happens? They do the test flight. He's gone into the lifeboat because he's 67 or something. And the last thing he can do is survive all of this. If he was just in the cabin, it has to be in safety mode. And she, being only like 14 years old and a fully fledged pilot already, born on Mars, and she is does the test. It's successful, much to her amazement. She isn't dead. However, there has been one small miscalculation. They have gone so fast. They have gone back in time, 57 years to New Year's Eve, 1999.
The Y2K
Dreaded
world, yes.
And there are 3 kids out there who, one of them sees this thing landing at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they are alien hunters. They're only like 14-year-olds, but that's their hobby. Like they're always looking for aliens, and they live in Florida. And one of them's dad works at a secret facility somewhere for NASA. Anyway, that's what they're going to find, is this girl crippled because she's born on Mars. She's never experienced Earth's gravity.
Right.
And if you've seen pictures of astronauts, when they come down to Earth, they can't move. They have to be lifted out of the capsules that land in the water or in the space shuttle or whatever. They just cannot, they have no physicality anymore. And so she is crippled, and like they sort of rescue her just as the military is trying to find this alien craft that's landed. Anyway, so that is the beginning of Mission Longshot.
Right. So, you know, it's the cast, right?
Yeah.
The players in the role. So she's not alone trying to rescue her cousin. She's now got a team who end up being a lot smarter than they actually were on Earth. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you know, they're not as smart as Stella, the
right.
pilot, but on the other hand, what they do have is enthusiasm, a love of space. All 3 really want to be astronauts, as you would if you grow up very close to Cape Canaveral and all of that, and when the space shuttle was still operating and things like that. And so they're, if you like, they're geeks, but this is a thrill for them. Only slowly do they begin to realize, wait a minute, you know, if we're going to go and rescue this girl who's actually in 2057, and this is only 1999 New Year's Eve, how do we get there? 1, will we ever get back?
Right. And is there anything to come back to? Because why is everybody living on Mars and the moon and looking for a new planet anyway? Right.
Because there's been global warming, there's been nuclear war,
right.
And the fact is, the moment if you do go nuclear, well, that's not going to help the climate, really.
No, definitely not. And you know, there's so many movies and books on Armageddon, and you know, you just look at Humans, it's like you have the most beautiful gift you could ever possibly want in your life, this planet. It provides us with everything. And yet, all we want to do is obliterate each other and everything in sight. So it's like, it's always like they're going off to another planet to start again. But unless you change the way you are, all you're going to do is repeat the same process and
Yeah.
destroy another planet, right?
When I was writing this and wrote the script beforehand, my supervisor, a girl called Anna, who's the director of films here, and she was saying, "Well, what's the purpose of all of this? But what are we learning? What is the lesson learned?" And I had to think about that because, I quite like just the story. I like the characters and all the rest of it. But what are they learning? Well, what they're learning is there's probably only one planet that mankind can really survive on.
Mm-hmm.
And we better do something about it.
Right.
And
Right. The wake up call, I call it the cosmic 2x4. When people don't pay attention, whack, have I got your attention now?
two things that were in the news this week, actually. One is that in my book, I've sort of predicated that we're heading towards this 9 billion population. We're at 8 at the moment, but we're heading towards 9 within our lifetimes, within 10 years, which is extraordinary. When you think that when I was born anyway, there were only 2.5 billion on Earth.
Right.
That's
and life expectancy wasn't anywhere near as long.
Well, it's shot up by about 20-30% for some. The other thing, it just happened today, the European Court has ruled in Belgium that Shell must go, if you're not almost like net zero, but reduce all of their carbon emissions by 40% by 2030. Okay, which, is interesting. And they are sort of committed to going in that direction. But you're talking to an oil company.
Yes.
Right. They actually produce carbon products, right? That is what they do. There will also be something else. Everybody thinks it's great. Everybody wants to be green. Everybody wants to be responsible. You and I would both love to have an electric car if we could afford one, but unfortunately they're stupidly expensive and China controls all the batteries. But there will be a rebellion, a resistance to being forced to go green. Now, one of the things that's happening here, by 2025, they're banning, you can't have gas-fired boilers to warm your house.
How do you warm your house then?
How do you warm your house? Yeah. So they're saying, well, we can go over to hydrogen, or you can fit solar panels, or you can have heat pumps. None of these things will heat a 1930s, what most of us live in for some reason, with no proper insulation, etc., with a bit of double glazing. But the rebellion, when people realize that they're not going to be able to stay warm in winter, particularly the older, who may not have the money to put, $30,000 worth of solar panels on their roof or whatever, there will be resistance. And there will be resistance to all kinds of things that the green agenda is pushing forward. And it's quite interesting. You can't go green without pain, and no one's telling you about the pain.
Right. Look, every transition is painful. Everyone. I mean, this whole pandemic that everybody's gone through has been literally deadly for some people and extremely painful and a total pivot for many, many people. It's how you react to the challenge, how you react to the changes that are before you and what you can rise up to. That's the invitation all the time. But when you are talking about the elderly or the people that can't afford, and let's face it, people are getting poorer. And, as more and more technology and more opportunity comes in, there are more and more people getting poorer because everything is going up except for their pension or anything else. We're going to leave a lot of people behind. And so, yes, it's great, push forward with the green, but at the same time, you need the balance of kind of slowly, like we are doing with the pandemic. We are very slow to go back into full production, step by step by step, before we're right out there again. It should be the same with the other technology, but it seems to be, as humans, we're either all stop or all go foot to the pedal, and we don't seem to plan things out. And that's what gets us into trouble, isn't it?
Maybe. I mean, yesterday I went to the cinema for the first time since last, when would it be? August? When we were allowed to go
God,
to the cinema.
I haven't been to the movies since probably not this February, last February.
Anyway, this is the first day I was allowed. I went to see Nomadland, which is brilliant and beautifully, strong visual and a sad movie, but gosh, a real insight into the fragility of life in America for the older people in particular.
Yes.
Blue collar people who do not have a proper pension and medical and all the rest of my God, Anyway, I am lucky, touch wood, that I live in a country that does respect the old and look after them,
Yeah. And it really does depend on which country you're in.
It certainly does.
Yeah, some cultures revere the elderly for the wisdom and what they've paved beforehand, and look up to them. But others, it's like, well, you've had your life, you're disposable now. So, and that's
absolutely.
very much the Western culture.
Yeah. Anyway, but here everything is roaring back, I have to say, in the UK. Everybody's going out buying stuff. And so in a way, that's good because it means people are going to be hiring people and all the rest of it.
Right. Yes.
But you're right, though, because it means everyone's thinking, oh, I'll get my old life back. I'm going to go on holiday. Well, they are going on holiday, but they're going to bring back another variant of the virus,
Yes.
So, I can well see that come September, October again, we're all going to be locked down again.
That's
why I had a haircut.
That's why I need one. I wish I hope to get one next weekend. But as I said, we're very, there's a lot of pressure on our medical people here about when to open up and everything else. And it's there's the push and the pull, economics, we need to open up. Restaurants are suffering. Obviously, theaters haven't been open for 15 months. Everything is wanting to open up, sports, everything. And they're just saying step by step, because if you go too fast, there you are, back up with the numbers.
However, there's something positive. They've been trialing for the young a whole bunch of rock concerts, and 53,000 or 58,000 kids or young people anyway have gone to rock concerts, etc. And only 13 people caught the virus.
And none of them had had the vaccine.
Yes, no, quite a lot of them had. If not the vaccine, they were all tested. All of them were tested, and tested after the concert and tested a week later. That's why they know. Out of all of that, only 13 people. So now 61 million people have been vaccinated in this country, and 30 million of that have been vaccinated twice. So that's excellent.
Yes.
So the virus, or the variant, is horrible, but it's got, and of course, guess where? Guess what's the people who are in hospital? They won't take the vaccine.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Well, I mean, case of Eunice, my daughter, I mean, she got it. She worked on the film set. She would have to be tested at least twice a week, double masked, doing extremely well, not partying, not anything. Her boyfriend is a teacher, a music teacher of elementary kids, and he got it from one of the kids. And so she got it.
You say that. I have to say, school has been back now here for about 5 weeks now. And there hasn't been an explosion of the virus at all. All those teachers who demanded to be vaccinated, they haven't caught the virus. The kids aren't infecting everyone. Obviously, there will be some who do.
Yes.
But in general, it hasn't been an explosion. And so, if you like, through discipline, self-discipline, through lockdown, through vaccination, we are getting through this. In countries where there isn't this idea of self-discipline or willingness to obey,
or the lack of vaccines because of the governments, like Brazil and India.
Well, in India, I mean, the irony is that
they're making it.
That's why they make the vaccine.
I know.
But delivering it, a health system's completely broken down. The prime minister there is, let's face it, not up to the job. But
Nope.
anyway, but it's a sad state of affairs. And the New York Times today was saying the number that they've got is 324,000 dead is actually 1 million dead. They don't count rural poor dying or people dying.
Or people who, you know, they're in ambulances outside of the hospital because they can't go into the hospital. Doctors have been attacked because there's no medical care, and they say, "How can I give you care? I've got nothing."
Indians deserve better leadership and better, you know.
Well, you know, it's the same with Brazil, which is more like a genocide going on there, really. He's just totally ignored the fact that there is even a pandemic. So, yeah, I think it just depends on what country you're in. We are at almost 60% first shot, and they want us to be at 75% first shot, at least 20% second shot before they open up more. So we're getting more and more of the vaccines coming in. Yeah, exactly. And it's just not worth it. You know, it's like we've been through so much for so long. Let's just be a little more patient. And, you know,
it's good I wrote, if you remember my book, Another Place to Die, End Time Chronicles. And
do I have that one here? No, I don't have one here.
The pandemic I wrote about, which was much more lethal, you know, or quicker to die. And they didn't develop a vaccine till too late. And even then, that wasn't exactly the right one for the purpose, as it were. But, and it was quite funny, you know, I did the first version of that in 2008, and then the next version in 2014. And all of it was down to wearing masks, social distancing, all of those things.
Common sense.
If you like.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I took all of that from public documents published by the CDC and others. How's it everyone forgot all that? You know, because I knew about it.
Well, I think what it is we're saturated. We're saturated with all sorts of senseless stuff all the time. And it's either like the Pied Piper, you know, social media and the media, they're hysterically leading you down whatever they want you to be afraid of next. And it's somebody will always benefit from your fear. And I mean, this is
helpful having Trump in charge.
Oh God! I mean, you know, as people have said, when Biden came in, back to beautiful, boring old politics, and you know, now it's that America went from so many people dying every day to the amount of people that have been vaccinated and opening up now, and it's just been quietly done. Now you've still got 20 million people who refuse to get vaccinated. Or still look at it as a hoax. And I don't know if you've heard the latest one, which I find rather hilarious. The unvaccinated and the protest against the vaccines are now wearing masks around people who have been vaccinated because they don't want to get the radiation from the chip they've been vaccinated with.
Right. Yes.
Right. So, you know,
whatever works.
Whatever gets a mask on them, right? Exactly. So, you know, it's I have many people who, you know, who are anti this, it's just the flu. And I said, well, whether it's a flu or not, use your common sense. And if there's something you can take to prevent that flu from spreading, then just do it. Right? Let's just get it done. And, you know, if Microsoft has put a chip in me and they're following everything I'm doing and everything I'm saying, maybe they'll learn something.
Actually, I'd rather it was Apple that gave the chip than not a PC. But anyway,
the whole point is that we've got Big Brother watching us all the time anyway. So it's like, just don't do or don't say what you don't want, you know, to not have anybody knocking at your door. So, but you know, I want to go to another book that you've written, which is one actually I refer to a great deal. I was interviewing an author the other day and I talked about your book and he immediately wrote it down and wanted to get it. And that's The Repercussions.
Which I just had to do a republishing of that. So it is definitely available. And I was reading it and while I was doing it, because I had to relay it out, Amazon changed their parameters and things. And so I've had to go through all my books and change the layout. Being a nightmare.
Yes.
A nightmare. Anyway.
Yeah.
They control the market, so you have to do what they say.
Right. Well, the thing about this book, and it's all of your books stay with me. I always love them. But this one, the fact that a young boy talking on the phone to his girlfriend, crossing the road, kind of goes through a time loop and finds himself in the Second World War, and kind of ironically talking to somebody about the whole experience and what his phone is and everything else to someone who ends up being a Nazi sympathizer. And it changes the war completely. And,
Yeah.
it is now a
Tale of
world.
costs lives.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I think this is where with the youth, never mind the war, because they're so bombarded with war movies and war all the time. But the fact that you don't have a cell phone, you don't have freedom, you don't have this, you don't have that. I think as the youth reading that is saying how one lie can change the entire future, where you do not have all these luxuries that you have today. I think that's more of a shock to them than anything else.
But yeah, it was fun rereading it actually,
It's a good book.
and going through what poor Thomas went through there and again, all of the facts are there. The Blitz happened. 1 million homes were bombed. 1 million.
Yeah.
That's multiplied per time of the lives.
Yes,
Thousands of
exactly.
people dead. The burning of London, etc. But for him, it's like it's history.
Yeah.
To find yourself thrust back into history
Mm-hmm.
and having to survive, etc., and realizing that anything you say could affect the future, as it were. And it just so happens to him is that one person that he put to jail with is a German spy,
And
it does change everything.
change absolutely everything. And what I always love about your writing is the food for thought. It's entertaining. You get really caught up in the characters. It's always afterwards when you close it, yeah, but what if that really did happen?
Yeah.
Or what if that could happen? How would I react in that situation? And I'm going to talk about another book that I absolutely love of yours, which is The Girl with the
Girl
Cat.
with Cat Blue. Yeah.
And, this has got to have a sequel. It has to have a sequel to it. And I love books that take us into different dimensions and different worlds. Just, clearly with the Harry Potter books and the Twilight Zones and everything, we love something that takes us into other worlds and explore. And this is definitely one that explores the different dimensions of the different worlds and the loops between it and what's happening in each world. And with this beautiful blue cat that she has and this girl looking for her brother. And it's the beautiful thing about reading a book or something like this, it's your imaginations that's painting the canvas. Your words are the brush, but how it comes out and how we read it, how we perceive it, generally always is going to kind of go in with a reflection on our own lives. And I think it heightens people's lives to possibilities, to opportunities, and also to perhaps a little gratitude for what we do have.
During lockdown, I did a 7-hour adaptation of that book to try and interest people in it. Getting anyone's interest at this present moment is quite difficult, but anyway.
Yes, just keep persisting, keep persisting.
So I was able to expand in certain areas of the book, and particularly on the other side of that world. It's a tale of two Londons, the present day London, and of course an alternate London, or Lundain, and which has grown up without war. And then suddenly France, in the name of the Gauls, who have another historical trajectory, as it were, bomb the hell out of it. And there's nothing much left. And this is a girl who's defending really the rubble.
Yeah.
Sake of it, but how long do you stay defending the rubble?
Right. And where do you go? If you've lived in peace and
for her, it's to find her brother who's gone to the other side, to our London, and
doesn't know his way back.
Well, he doesn't really want to go back.
Right. Yeah. Hasn't looked too hard. Right.
Yeah, precisely. And,
I have another book of yours which.
No, sorry, go.
No, I have another book of yours which I don't have with me, but it's another one that that I love. It's Not Another Place to Die. It's the other one. Many, many years ago, you wrote a book about a young boy who finds a foot in a boot on Jericho Beach, which later on you set in London due
Called
to your
Mean Tide.
Mean Tide. That's it. There you go.
Yeah.
And what was
That's
interesting,
by Sam North, which so this is previous.
right? Yeah, but still a fantastic book. And the interesting thing that happened is that all of a sudden we actually had feet turning up on the
Yeah.
shores here, and it's like,
Well, that's where it started. That's when I was walking on Jericho Beach, and that's that day that turned up, and that's where that book started.
and but you have, you know, the
And
psychic
I
boy,
transferred
and
it to London. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a wonderful book, which I don't know if people can still get hold of, but you know,
Yeah,
another
it's
good,
on Lulu, I think. Yeah.
great, wonderful. And
Yeah.
then, you know, we've got Marika, which is actually based on a true story.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, and
And
you
that's
know,
a story that happened here in Lincolnshire. A guy was having a problem with the tax people and was very angry with them demanding money. And he went home, he burned down his home, his children, the horses, everything. And Marika is the girl who escaped. And unfortunately, and it's not really a spoiler, her dog tries to defend her from him as he's trying to shoot her. And the dog dies, but somehow the dog's ghost stays with her. I always have to have a dog in my
yes,
story.
you do. I know how much pain you have had in trying to keep the dog alive.
Well, this one, the dog is already dead, but his ghost is alive. With her, you know. But anyway, yeah, Marika is a nice story set here in Lincolnshire, and people never set books in Lincolnshire, so it's quite nice.
And the thing about Lincolnshire, it's beautiful. I mean, the landscape for things, you know, the rolling hills, and then off into the ocean. There's just so much beauty there to which to set a story.
We don't actually have an ocean, but we do have a North Sea.
Yeah. Okay, no, the water.
Yeah.
But the fact that, you know, it is based on a true story, you know, that's, you read it and you kind of feel, oh, it's fantasy. And then you go, oh, no, this is based in reality. This actually did happen. And how terrifying it would have been for her, because, of course, she's a little on the run now, right?
Not only on the run, but she fears that she will be blamed for it, because once she set fire to a shed full of fireworks and burned it down. So,
right.
You know,
yeah. So
once you get a reputation, it's very hard to shake it, right?
And, you know, as a kid, it's always, who will believe me? Who's there for me? Nobody cares about me. And so it's a totally different journey altogether.
Yeah, and actually it's about her father's journey, her real father, who's not been able to find her because the mother changed the name and disappeared with her. And so this is about a real father trying to find his daughter. And she's unaware that obviously she thought he was dead.
Yes.
You know, what people lies some adults tell children, you know, dispute in relationships.
I know. And you know, the amount of people I've interviewed that have revealed those lies that they've discovered later and had the impact that it's had on their lives. If this isn't just something we read in fiction, you know, I mean, everything you write in fiction, even if it's dimensional stories, there's always a basis of fact in there, isn't there? And this is why it always feels so real.
I had somebody write to me about my book, We Feel Your Pain, and they weren't really interested in the book, but they loved the dog in it. Where would I get a dog like that? She wrote.
Well, the thing is, you've always got a kid and you've always got a dog. And I know, you know, you've had many a time in, you know, how do I get them to escape with their lives? Never mind the dog. And you know, a case in point in the next book. Now, this is an old cover because you've had to reconfigure it and everything for Amazon. But the repossession.
Well, it's now called The Repossession of Jeannie McGee. And I've just literally today published a new paperback version of that. So that's what it's called. And you'd have to find it. It'll be on samhawksmoor.com and it'll be on there. But so it's available as Kindle, and that because my publishers only did it for 1 year and then killed it. Even though it won awards, was
Yeah.
published in France and Turkey and whatever they
And it
did.
took them so long to even get your book out. So,
And
no
they just
wonder old publishing is
did not like
dying.
that book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so I've revived it and literally today. So it should be available from tomorrow in paperback.
Well, it is a trilogy and different covers because you've had to
Yeah, the
redo it.
heaviness stays the same. So the hunting of Gina McGee and the repossession of Gina McGee are now back available again.
Right. And I'm
I
so
know
happy they are
people are trying
because
to charge $95 for the original paperback, and I have, a garage full of them. So does anyone want one?
right. And but the thing about these books, which I absolutely love, I love your twists and turns. I mean, never mind that you get really caught up in the character, and you've got these 34 kids that are missing. What's causing them to go missing, what's going on, what are these kind of shadow creatures that they're seeing, and teleportation and this and that. It's that you manage to add layers of mystery and wonderment and explanation. And because of the way you add it, it's all completely believable. So you don't lay it all up front where it's like, okay, it's going to be one of those books. You start off with the character of this, and then it slowly unravels and unravels. And of course, I'm not going to give it away, but when they get to the third book, what this is all about, what? That was my reaction. What? Because there is always the villain, but it's never who you think it is. You give us a villain right at the very, very beginning there. But when you find out he's just a scratch of the surface and all the layers behind it. And of course, you burnt down Whistler here in British Columbia.
In the hunting of Jim McGee, Whistler.
Yes,
definitely gone.
Yes, yeah. And another place to die. You burnt down Commercial Street. You like burning down our landscapes here.
Yeah.
The characters are great. Of course, they're young people because you went to youth genre where you can really let that imagination go. It's a young person, obviously. She falls in love, and it's the journey there. But again, for any youth that are reading this, it's a wonderful kind of discovery of themselves, because through the adversity and the challenges and the journeys they go through and the seeking of what really is the truth, what really is going on here, who's really behind this, being on the run and everything else. I think for a young person, it helps them kind of turn their eyes in on themselves. Could I do that? Would I have the courage? Would I have the savvy for that? Am I willing to look at things that aren't just, face and look deeper into the situation?
I mean,
And
the interesting thing for me about writing the repossession, if you came with me when we went all the way up the river.
yes, with Kokomo, the dog.
And so, initially it's about, of course, the origins of teleportation and, who the hell is going to volunteer.
Right.
To be constructed. It's all very well working on Star Trek.
Yes.
How many people died testing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and don't get put back together the right way.
Right. So, but in fact, what it develops is that what they realize is that teleportation may be not what the business is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they've actually realized it's about cosmetic surgery using the deconstruction of your DNA. So when you are recreated, you are now perfect.
Right. And there's certainly enough vanity in the world for that to be a big industry.
Yeah. That's why they're experimenting on these kids.
Yes.
It's not for teleportation stakes, it's for cosmetic surgery.
Right. But what she discovers about herself and her abilities.
Yes.
Which is also extraordinary. And of course, the dog, I remember the scene. Mucha. There's a water scene trying to keep the dog alive, never mind them alive, and it's always that struggle, how do I keep the dog alive? But I think the dog is,
it's a real dog,
right.
Mucha, the dog in France where I was writing that in the farmhouse, and lovely Bergère, which are a lovely dog. But my God, in France, you might see some women who are treating the dogs well, but my God, in the countryside, dogs are not treated well.
Yeah.
That's where I was staying. He sent me a picture of their letterbox, and he hadn't been home for a while because of pandemic, and they were staying in town. And they came and opened the letterbox, and there was a cuckoo's nest in there with a whole bunch of eggs.
Nature will take over if you give it half the chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think having an animal, in there is that the animal is the comfort. Like in the cat Blue, it's her best friend. It's her attachment of herself. It's her consciousness. It's her strength. It's her protector. And when we, having the dog in there, the human is protecting the dog, but the dog is also protecting the human. And
Yeah,
it's that companionship.
it's what you'll understand because you used to be a dog owner.
Hmm.
Is that you're not always just worried about yourself.
Right.
You're worried about the animal and the animal's fate, and the dog is equally worried about you. They pick up signals.
Yes.
They understand. They're sympathetic. They're simpatico.
Hmm.
So it adds a dimension to any character. If you have to care for, if it's not a dog or a child, or if you remember the outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood, it's about you can be as hard as you like, but if your responsibility for this whole bunch of children or a dog or whatever, it softens you at the same time, makes you more human.
Yes, it does. It gives you something else that you're fighting for.
Yeah.
That's really, really important. Something else, because it's very easy to either kind of give in or turn sour or bad. But when you've got something that relies on you, a life that relies on you, it kind of keeps you honest. It keeps you focused, and it keeps that heart connection going.
Going back to Mission Longshot, Celeste, who's the girl who's adrift in space, and she's on this planet and got this maintenance robot. And in a nice little treat, he's really the dog in this story.
Yes. Yeah.
But of course, in the beginning, he's just a maintenance robot. And every time she needs something or whatever, and he doesn't know the answer, he downloads another app.
Totally relatable.
Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, but it's again, it's about you're humanizing an object, if you like, but
it also it expresses kind of human tendencies of caring. I mean, it's just kind of nuts and bolts and downloaded data, but at the same time, it cares. It really cares for Celeste and her survival.
Absolutely, it was ordered to do that, but you could see that he really does get angry at all the things that she does, which puts them at risk, as it were.
Right. Originally it was called Planet B, but you changed the name for different reasons. But
a lot of other Planet B books out there.
Exactly. And that's probably the Armageddon Planet B, when we destroyed Planet A. But it's very intriguing, that she actually does go out to this particular planet to see if it's, because she knows she can't stay on this broken wherever she is, whatever you call it, the spaceship, and she knows that its days are going to be numbered, so she needs somewhere to go. So they go investigate this Planet B, and it's really quite intriguing. And we don't want to give too much away, but I love the way you merge kind of the creatures and the humans, but also in the short period of time that she's there, the history that is shown there, which is very, very intriguing. And the reason why that planet isn't one that she can stay in. So the poor girl is, wherever she turns to think, oh, this is sanctuary, it ain't. So
it's quite possible, and I know a lot of people think there is, but I have a feeling that may not be
another planet like this.
With all the right combinations of oxygen and hydrogen, all the things that we need to sustain our lives. And it might be just a fantasy that we all think there is. It's like heaven is a fantasy, without offending people who believe in it. Heaven is a reality for those who believe in it. And so is this other earth that'll be out there. Well, it may not be. And
no, I think we're a phenomenon amongst the universe, this planet. We might have been an experiment that, just is extraordinary. And you know, I think we're put here to respect, you know, this planet and work with it, work with nature, not abuse it like we have. And that's the lesson that we're here to learn. And you know, Mother Nature can evict us any time. And you know, she's certainly been kicking up a storm. And we're apparently about to have more tornadoes and more hurricanes than last year. And it's she's letting us know, don't get complacent. You know, you're being let out now, but don't go back to your old ways.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got to change. We've got to have more respect, not only for our planet but for each other, because
You see
this, you know,
how the world's air cleared, but people weren't flying.
I know. I mean, it was just extraordinary to
Yeah.
see that, and animals coming out in the middle of streets and things like that. And it
Yeah.
just shows, you know, we're here to share this planet. It's not ours. And
Yeah.
you know, it's time for us to grow up and be more respectful. Which, you know, there isn't the plan B, you know, another plan. And if you do go there, you may have to live underground, or you may have to live in buildings and never see the sky or fresh air again, or feel the wind on your face, or dive into the ocean. You know, there's a lot that you will give up. So take care of what you do have.
And I'm not sure I want to live basically underground on Mars.
No,
On the surface, you'd be irradiated,
you're right.
or with Elon Musk on Mars, for that matter.
Yes. Yeah.
But,
It's not like, you know, the Star Trek, so, you know, you can simulate anything you want. And, you know, you know, these other worlds, when you look at the other worlds in Star Wars, they were always very deserty and kind of abandoned, and only certain creatures could live there. So, yeah, everything goes back to appreciate what you have now. We've got another book to talk about, which I don't have here with me. I don't know where it is, because I don't have everything with me here in this house. But the J and K Forever, a powerful young love story
yeah,
set in the
J&K
bleak
Forever.
Badlands.
I will see it somewhere, possibly. J&K Forever, yeah. And never really liked the cover of this one, to be honest. I blame my nephew.
I do like the cover. I think it's pretty cool.
And so this is about 60 years after everything, the end of everything, a post-apocalypse. The city of Bluet survives, controlled by a malignant force called the Fundamentals. Men rule, girls receive no education, and are matched at 16 to the highest bidder. Everything modern is prohibited. No one is permitted to leave, and outside is a murderous wasteland of despair. That should cheer your readers up. And,
sounds a little handmaidenish.
it's about two orphans who, you know, the girl is about to be betrothed to the highest bidder, and he is being put out to pasture to go and look after all the things they banned. And of course, this is all based on reality, what's happened with the Taliban and things like that. And but in America.
Well, as I said, a little handmaided tale, which I don't know if you've seen that, but you know,
but it's for kids. So, and they're all told, you know, outside the city, it's a ruin and a wasteland and all the rest of it. And mostly you'd get that kind of book or that kind of movie where when they go out and they find it's all fabulous.
Right,
but actually,
exactly.
no, it's a wasteland.
Yeah.
And it's about survival. It's also about love. And it's a love story, but a post-apocalyptic love story.
And,
I
mean, you write a lot about kind of end of world, you know, either through pandemics or, you know, we've pushed the button or, you know, trying to survive it. But you've always got hope in it, like finding love, you know, finding purpose, going against the establishment. It's always that there has to be something more, and we have to strive for it. So you're whatever age group you're writing for, and everything that you write, there's always that there is always something more if you're willing to look for it.
In J&K Forever, the scene that people find harrowing is when they come across the dentist who is pulling people's teeth out because they can't, you know, that's what his job is now, just pulling people's teeth out, and they
Yes.
have to gum all their food and all the rest of it.
Uh,
They can't
Well, and
bear.
that's kind of going back somewhat to the dark ages where people sold their teeth, right?
Yeah,
Or sold their hair or whatever, so that the rich people could have dentures. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's pretty scary once they leave the city, which was pretty horrific. But to go out there and discover just what, and because they don't have no idea, and everybody's got a different theory about what the apocalypse was, and
Mm,
that was also entertaining for me to write, because certain people would say, oh no, it was eco-terrorism, or a virus or a pandemic or whatever, but actually no one really knows, because once you cut the electricity off, you also cut knowledge off.
right.
You
Well,
know,
one of my favorite movies was The Book Thief,
yeah.
which is a wonderful story.
I love the book, but not the movie so much. But
Mm,
anyway,
the whole thing about what happens when you have any of these regimes. What do? They destroy knowledge. They
that's
destroy books. But we are meant to learn from past things. And, this whole control thing is that we don't want you to know anything, because what we don't want you to do is think for yourself or think there's a solution. We want to keep you in fear because that's how we keep you in control.
the problem is that we're actually heading down that road with this cancel culture, that they don't want history to be taught because
Mm.
history is evil. It's full of things like slavery and whatever. When we should be learning from
Right.
history. I
Yes.
mean, Civil War over slavery,
Right.
you know, you know. But there were also people in the world who fought, a guy called Wilberforce and whatever, to ban slavery. Slavery should never have happened. It's
Right.
terrible. But to say that one should not discuss it, or anyone whose great grandfather or great 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 grandfather had an investment in it in some way or share, it's stupid to do that. We need to learn from history,
Right.
not to do these things again. And in fact, there's a new series on possibly Amazon. I haven't got it, but based on the book The Underground Railroad.
Mm. Yes.
I'd
Yes.
really like to see that.
It's coming up on Amazon, I think it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that
book
looks really good.
amazing. Because taking it literally, saying there really was a railroad
Right.
underground, where the slaves escaped. And that, to me, is, that was a wonderful story, a wonderful piece of imagination, but with a real message, and
Hmm.
how horrible, cruel, and terrible it all was. But to cancel anyone who wants to discuss it, or cancel all of the buildings that were built by those who made it, etc. We know we need to, stick a plaque on it and say, this was
Yes.
funded by slavery. Fine.
Right.
But, and then they name even some of the slaves or the people, whatever. But
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is a erasement of history. You're doomed to repeat it. We have to learn from it. And to penalize somebody, um, that is ignorant. We recently had a thing here with one of the bachelorettes, and there was a girl that went to a party that was like the plantation parties where they all dressed up, the women all dressed up in fancy clothing. She's from the South. She had absolutely no idea it was to do with slavery or anything else, because she wasn't taught any of that. And of course, she's dating a black guy, the first black bachelor, and
okay.
it's brought up, and like he walks away from her, and they're back together now. But it's like everybody out to attack her, and they say, okay, no, stop attacking her, attack the system that didn't teach her.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we're great to persecute people and blame them, but let's look at the situation of what they're brought up in, and why are they not getting the knowledge? Why do they not know this? And now they do know it. Are they willing to change?
Mm.
Right? Because we love to persecute people and blame them and shame them, but we don't like to help people change their ways.
No. It is worrying, though, because it, makes you hesitant about what you're going to write about.
The political correctness.
And yeah, you've got to be sensitive to it. and people who are brave or write about it is immediately cancelled, or publishers cancel their deals and whatever. And it's same with sex, etc. Gosh, the list of things that are taboo now is very reminiscent of living in Russia or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah. And the thing is, yes, Black lives do matter, and certainly the voice needs to be heard, and most certainly the system has to change. Most certainly in America, even though we have it here in Canada as well, racism is alive and well. And we've got a great deal of persecution going on with the Asian population.
no, I don't understand the. Well, I suppose I understand it in the sense that they're there and they've all come over from. I remember last time I was there, all the street signs in Coquitlam and around there in Korean, etc., which I was quite amazed at the change.
Yes.
But and certainly there will always be resentment of the incomer, as it were.
Yes.
I mean, in New York, 1890s, there were riots against the Irish.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, there is, places like New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Canada, America, we are immigrant countries. We're made up of, the all sorts of everybody that, that was willing to take the journey for whatever reason. So this whole thing about, keeping things pure or keeping it white or keeping it American is a whole load of codswallop, because look to your ancestors. Where did they come from? There's a whole shakeup going on right now, and we're going to see a lot of
give it all back to the Red Indians, really. But,
right, exactly. Yeah, there is even one.
We're invading the natural animals that were there, so
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's a lot that has to be questioned, and I think our youth are questioning it. But you have two sides of the youth: those that are really intuitively smart and they're questioning and they want to know more and they want to change the system, and the others that are just blindly being led by the phone and the latest tweet or the latest Instagram or the latest TikTok or whatever it's called, and are just mindlessly going through life. And
mindlessly, I did actually, when I was walking on the seafront yesterday in the horrible driving rain, a girl in front of me walked straight into a tree because she was looking at the
And it's like, oh my God, if you remember, we grew up with we don't want robots to take over. They have. It's called a phone. All right. And so you've become the slave to the phone, that you can't put it down. Every time you hear a ping, you've got to know who likes me now, who's responded to something, and you've become a slave to it.
No one likes me, so I don't have.
Let's switch it up a little bit now and know more about Sam and ask you a few questions here. Now, start off with, what's your favorite movie and why?
Buster Keaton's The General.
Why?
That's a silent movie. It's sheer brilliance. First time I ever saw it, and it's a film made, 1926, I think. And I saw it with a full orchestra. Right, in the BFI cinema, and it was amazing. Just the technicality of it. It's hilariously funny, but at the same time, his cast was like the entire army. It was just extraordinary. He managed to get just thousands of soldiers involved. There were no special effects in those days, and it's a story about the Civil War and about a train driver. And the general is a train. It's an amazing film, and most people, if they're going to go, think about their favorite films. But we now have 120 years of cinema,
right?
And don't forget the first 20 is what I think.
Yeah. There is a speech that constantly goes around on Facebook, which I always share, and it's Charlie Chaplin, and he kind of looks like Hitler, but it's a speech about humanity, and and it is every time I listen to it, I don't know when it was done, but my God, it speaks to us now.
37 or something like that, but one of my favorite of his is The Circus, and also The Gold Rush, which is up in the Klondike area. And there's a famous one where he's eating shoe leather because they're starving. And,
Right, yes, I remember that. Yeah. And the thing is, they had to rely on emoting emotion, you know, not the special effects, which we see so much in movies today. I mean, it was truly acting, wasn't it, at its best?
well, yeah,
Storytelling.
the craftsmanship too is
Yeah.
amazing, particularly when dealing with what they were, filming with and how quick everything was, etc.
Yes. Yeah.
Chapman was, he shot whole films if he didn't like something. He was,
Perfectionist. Yeah.
yeah.
But you know, we got the benefit of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The book you're reading right now, what is it you are reading?
I have just finished Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. And she's got a series on TV at the moment called Shadow and Bone.
Oh, which is great. Yes, I've watched that.
And if you can't start with Rule of Wolves because it's the end of the series.
Right.
But I envy anyone who hasn't read all this and can all go back to the beginning and read them all, because they're just amazing. She is a brilliant writer.
Yeah, and the Shadow and Bones, it's on Netflix, and it's again, for all age genres. It doesn't matter what age you are on that, and it's very well done.
I'm slightly upset in a way, because you've got Shadow and Bone, which is one book, then Ruin and Rising, and then there's another series called Six of Crows, with also a sequel, and they put them all together. Now, obviously, they've decided to do that because they didn't want to take the risk of starting another or whatever. I don't know, but I am slightly disappointed that they didn't develop one strand for the first series, and then they could move on.
Budgeting.
They're beautifully done.
Yes, they are.
Money on it, and I hope people do watch it. And Leigh Bardugo is, as I say, I think one of the best writers out there.
And one I've recommended to you, which you haven't got yet, is The Nevers.
Yes, yeah, it's on.
Which is probably will come out soon. It's again totally different. It's not what you expect it to be. It's about people who have been, quote, touched. So they're, in other movies that they call mutants. They've all got gifts, but how they've got these gifts and why they've got these gifts and where they come from is revealed, and it's really quite intriguing, and it opens up things altogether.
I've avoided writing about superheroes. I prefer to have people with individual gifts of some kind, generally psychic or whatever.
Yeah, this is what The Nevers is. They all have this a particular gift that they have, and that is their forte.
Yeah,
which I highly recommend. But okay, the book you would wish you had written,
which would be Catch-22.
And why, other than the fact that totally intriguing?
I think I've read it maybe 4 times, and each time I laugh. And each time, it's the horror of war, but it's also the Americans in Italy being forced to, they increase their missions after mission after mission. They can never get out. And there's one guy in there particular who's desperate to, so he wants to have him declared mad, but then you have to be mad to fly the mission anyway. So,
right.
And Catch-22 is brilliant. Yeah.
And how many of us kind of come to that Catch-22 type situation, right? It's
well, that's where that expression comes from. Right?
Yeah. The TV series you're hooked on right now, which you've just talked about, Shadow and Bone.
Yeah, so that's that really. I don't have anything else that I'm hooked on at all at the moment. I've been working so much on my own stuff. In fact, I've just reached that point where, when you finish a book, and and lockdown's finishing as well, and I realized I have permission to
have a life,
start living again, but I cannot remember how to do that after
yes. Yeah, actually be able to go and walk for your coffee and your newspaper at a coffee house.
In almost a year, and it was like, wow,
Yeah. No, I mean, we've been fortunate that we've been able to kind of mostly do restaurants. We've now just been opened up to indoor dining, and for the last 2 months it's been outdoor dining. But we've actually had good weather to do that, which has been great. Okay, the book that you could not finish.
That well, there are several, but one in particular would be um, Mark Twain's autobiography. It's
Why
very.
couldn't you finish it?
It was about 1,000 pages, and I, I got through the first like 300 and whatever, but in actual fact, um, no, yeah, I just couldn't carry on. I just, you know,
Yeah, there's
didn't.
just some that just it's too painful to read, and it's not the
No,
storyline. It's
so
just so hard to
detailed
get through.
and mostly him moaning about not getting paid here and there, and I think, yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Getting paid by publishers is, you know.
Oh God, yes. That's the reason why everybody, self-publishes nowadays. Yeah. The book you're ashamed that you haven't read.
Um, yes. Well, there's a whole bunch. I tried reading the French book about time lost. I can't say it in French. That was terrible. There's a whole bunch of films, a whole bunch of books out there that you're supposed to have read,
Hmm.
like Ulysses. Nope, not going to read Ulysses. Doesn't appeal.
Right.
Okay,
But
not
that's
many.
the point of reading a book. You're meant to read something that is appealing because then it's going to stay with you. It's going to be intriguing. But just to have to read a book because everybody else is reading it or it's the book that needs to be read. If you haven't got the attachment to it, then why?
Yeah, absolutely. There are other books, and there are 30,000 books a year being published, so you
Exactly.
never really catch up, can
And
you?
this last year, a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was going to finally write mine in the last year, but I went from 4 shows a week to 8 shows a week, so there was no time. So eventually one day,
My friend in France, and he's just written his second volume of his autobiography.
oh my goodness.
He did
Right.
send the first volume, which was, interesting. Yeah, had a pretty horrible time in a Jesuit school.
Hmm.
His father was the governor of one African colony and whatever. And uh, yeah, he was beaten a lot, abused a lot. It was pretty horrible. And so I'm not terribly keen when he sends me the second.
Right, exactly.
Uh,
Yes.
but,
Yeah. The next book that we have coming out is the Forgotten Children series, where people will be contributing a chapter on the raising of our children and with the system that needs to change and how we can do it. So, it's my concentration is on that right now rather than my own.
right.
Okay. So, your favorite movie character?
My favorite character in movies really is Cary Grant. I love his movies.
Hmm.
It's probably very unfashionable to say so these days, but I always enjoy them if they are on TV.
Hmm.
Philadelphia Story and My Girl Friday and etc. He just had a wonderful urbane style and
Hmm.
also very good writers. And yeah, it was charm at the same time, very witty scripts, very wordy, which
Hmm.
I quite like. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there is an art to people being able to deliver that. There was a movie that Samuel L. Jackson and Tommy Lee Jones did, called I think Sunset Express, and it's just the two of them. One guy trying to prevent the other guy from committing suicide, and the reason for him to live. And I've never seen these actors as good as I've seen them in this movie, and it literally is all in one room. So it must have originally been a stage
Yes.
performance, and it's just both of them just went up so many scales because they're kind of action type guys, but this was all dialogue and emotion. It was so good.
Used to love like Walter Matthau
Yeah.
and all those people, and all of them were very talky, very
Yeah.
rapid, and I kind of miss that.
Yes.
We can celebrate people like Brad Pitt and whatever for what they are, but they're never really going to be talking fast or
Yes.
witty or whatever because that's not their style, and I
Yeah.
miss that in a way.
Yeah, I think that's what I enjoyed so much about this, not only the storyline, but the fact that it was a conversation between two people and an intelligent conversation and a debate on life. And I think, as I said, the best I've seen both of them, and the most dialogue I've seen from both of them in any of their moves. So highly recommend that. Your favorite piece of music? Now, I know that you write always to classical music in the background.
Yes, I do. And just recently, I have been obsessed with Petrushka by Stravinsky, and also the Brandenburgs by Bach. And basically, I listen to them often, but I have other movie soundtracks, things like Inception or Golden Compass or whatever, just stuff around. So I don't have to think about it. But at the same time, they have different cadences and moods and rhythms, so that it's the familiarity of it. At the same time, it's just there as you're writing, you know.
It's kind of companion, a stimuli, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
I will, when I've got a lot of admin to do, headphones are on and I'm listening to music. And then, I can just get through the admin without the pain because the music stimulates you long. There's another series that you mentioned, the Golden Compass, and they've got the series, The Dark Materials,
yes,
which
that's the same story, yeah.
Which is, I really love this version of it and the young character of it and where it's going, and I hope it comes back soon, because I think
they've done the first two, and they've got the last one to do now.
Right.
That'll be the hardest one to do, I think.
Yes, definitely. But I mean, beautifully done,
Well, of course, it's brilliant. And if you remember her, she was the star, really, of Logan.
Yes. And you, because she's kind of growing literally in this, as a teenager into a young woman, we're seeing kind of a transformation of her as well, in this. And no, very well done, beautifully filmed, and I'm really, really into it. So I can't wait for the next one to come out. The instrument, the greatest cultural pleasure
is not going to the theatre.
Oh, the guiltiest cultural pleasure, sorry.
Yes, no, I don't go to the theatre.
Which is, our mother was a theatrical actress. So, so it has to be movies for you, not live theatre.
But not theatre, no.
Why? Why is that?
Never liked theatre. Yeah, never enjoyed it, really. And if I have to go to the play, I mean, I have occasionally seen a good play, but in general, I prefer movies. Combination of the music, the sound, the big screen that absolutely you fall into.
Yes, yeah.
Quite important for me.
Yeah.
So in other words, I have some of my best ideas when suddenly it's, whether it's the music or whatever, it's suddenly, it stimulates me. Whereas theatre, I always find quite often painful.
Yeah, I can agree to that too. I mean, I do like good theatre. And when you go see good theatre, that you get lost in it and you forget that you're in a theatre, you're in the story. But, going to certain plays where there is the acting and here you are and it's an uncomfortable situation. So
and go to the loo.
Yes, exactly. Excuse me. I want an aisle seat, right? So yeah, I agree with that. But I love, musicals. I love watching live performances of that. So you're not really a musical person, are you?
Oh yes, I love musicals. I have a friend who actually is a specialist in musicals. He teaches musicals at Lincoln University, Dominic, and he writes books about them, etc., Lerner and Lowe and all the rest of them. And I'm looking forward to Spielberg's West Side Story, which is finished done, but whenever they're going to show it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's coming out soon, I think. And I remember Tasha, my youngest daughter, I played for her West Side Story. And afterwards, she said to it, it could be the same story now. Just,
absolutely.
Different players and
the last stage version of it, musical version.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, no, that would be about 15 years ago now. But
anyway. Oh God, more than that, I think. And the thing is, there's always a piece of music, isn't there? Kind of that, just like it haunts you. That's your music. You've got to listen to it over and over again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The instrument you wish you'd learned?
Well, I wish I'd learned properly the piano.
I remember you going into people's houses and just playing on their piano.
Yeah, no, yes, I should have learned to read music properly, but no, I didn't, and it's my fault entirely. There are two things I regret. One is not being able to play the piano properly. And the other one is I would love to have been an illustrator as well as a writer.
Yeah.
And then I could have done illustrated books, and I would have loved to have done that.
Right. Yeah, I've just interviewed a young autistic girl who's just got her second book, Dysmonia, and she illustrates as well. She's actually a graphic illustrator, and she illustrates in her own book, and she wants to work for Disney.
They're
And
currently hiring, by the way. So.
right, exactly. And the thing is, like, she may be autistic, but she's incredibly gifted. And that's, I think, many people that are very, very gifted, are very directional, are autistic. And so when we're looking at autism in a totally different way. The music that inspires you.
There's a lot of it that does. I like movie soundtracks in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Less of late, oddly, but that's possibly because you can't buy CDs anymore. Can't plug them into your computer anymore.
You can download them from YouTube.
I know. It's not the same. I don't know why. I hate the way everything now has gravitated to you can't own anything.
No, everything's on your phone, right? Everything is an app. Yeah.
It's like I have Word, but I have to pay for it every year.
Yeah.
Why? Why can't I just keep it as it is? Anyway.
Yeah. Well, what you have got here is the Thin Red Line soundtrack.
Yes, I love that.
I didn't like the movie. I thought cinematography was fantastic, but I thought it was just, the storyline was just, I couldn't believe it. But it was brilliantly filmed.
It was brilliantly filmed, and it's a very true story. And actually, there's a huge amount of it, about 4 hours of it, cut out that he filmed. So that was the cut down version of it.
I don't know. It just didn't hit me. The place you feel the happiest.
I feel the happiest. Biarritz in France.
Why?
The beach, the ocean, the ozone. I've written tons of books there, and
it's your muse. It's your muse.
My muse. I love it. It's just a beautiful place. And coffee's pretty terrible, but you have to like French coffee, really. Great pastries. A fantastic coastline, miles and miles and miles of it with coves, and you can swim in it as long as it's not too rough. So I nearly got swept away a few years ago there. A wave came in and sucked me out and took me out with it.
That happened to you in Cape Town too.
Yeah, it happens to me a lot because I like big waves.
Actually,
I walk too close to them.
I remember in Cape Town, we were out swimming, and we were on the side where, it was beautiful, crystal clear, but very cold. And we were just treading water, talking to someone, and all of a sudden the waves started coming in and I couldn't move. My body had gone so cold, I couldn't move. And you just grabbed me by my hair and pulled me in. I remember that.
Yeah, gosh. Now I couldn't go. I mean, it's only 7 degrees, that water.
Yes, yeah. No, we were young, we could take it, but not now, right? It's got to be warmer, a lot warmer. Okay, so who's coming to dinner post-COVID?
Right. Okay, I have a dinner plan. I have the table. I got the chairs. So I'm going to have Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, Jean Harlow, Bob Mitchum, Hedy Lamarr. Luckily, they're all dead, so they won't be turning up for supper tonight.
Well, the ghosts will be there, so.
But I just think how interesting that conversation
Oh, God, yeah.
They probably all smoke, and they're all resentful that I make them stand outside.
Yeah, true. Now, how come nobody kind of in this century?
Nobody, I
like
don't know.
No modern day person.
Who would I want modern day person? I have no idea. I just know that I particularly like those particular people for the work to do. Hedy Lamarr, of course, was an actress, but also invented the basic invention for a radar and things like that.
Yeah.
Bob Mitchum, I have met him actually. He was making a movie, and he was dressed as a bum, sitting on the sidewalk, and I remember it was a cop comes up to say, "I always knew you'd end up on the street," you know. Anyway, I met him, and he was quite interesting character. And Keaton and Chaplin. Well, Keaton would be interesting to have with Chaplin there, because they will all have their own memories of how Hollywood, the early Hollywood was, and Chaplin was treated very badly by Hollywood in the end. And Keaton was also ripped off totally. And
the trouble is, they were artistry; they weren't really businessmen.
So well, Chaplin was a businessman. His brother looked after him pretty well, but it was his politics that get. Yeah. Anyway, so,
some of the grapes, absolutely. You know, there's a few there that I would like to meet too. There is a movie, I'm going to forget the title, but it was on Oscar Wilde, a recent one, all done in black and white.
Yes, not Stephen Fry. It's with.
It was out 2020. And I've completely forgotten the name, but did you see it and did you like it?
No, I didn't see it, and it clearly wasn't on. But I haven't been, I've only seen 2 films in the last year because the cinema.
Yes, I can't remember. I have seen it, but I don't know if it was HBO or Crave or Netflix. I'm not sure, but I think it was on Netflix. But yes, I did see it, and actually, it was really well done. And really the capturing, the thing about the black and white, the mystery that it had behind it, right? The kind of the certain allure, color is great, absolutely fantastic, but there's something about that black and white of not quite knowing the lighting and the shadowing, the contouring of that light. It just takes you down a different road.
Which also won an Oscar this year. On TV, but Mank was.
That's the one I'm talking about, Mank.
Is it? Right, yes. You said Oscar Wilde, so that's why I got.
Okay, no, it wasn't Oscar Wilde. What was this? What was it about? It's the guy that. I've completely forgotten the name of the guy that it was about. The newspaper guru.
It's about the Orson Welles.
Orson Welles, that's it. That's where I've got mixed up. Oscar Wilde, Orson Welles. Yeah.
Yes, I think the problem for me with Mank is that I think the performances were good, the stylistic and the photography was great, but it didn't just quite come off, and I don't particularly know why. But yes, it passed the time or whatever, and they did recreate. Charles Dance plays. The newspaper proprietor,
right?
But it was interesting, but didn't quite win my heart, as it were.
Right. So,
whereas
a B.
Citizen Kane was actually on TV the other day, and that is still an amazing film.
Yes, I remember watching that when I was younger, and again, that black and white, that contouring of the the shading and everything else. There's just something about it.
Stylistic way that Orson Welles filmed it, and the use of dialogue and angles, etc. It was fascinating, and at the same time, a good story.
Yeah, exactly. The best advice given to you?
Go into real estate. And sadly, I did not take that advice.
Well, you own your own home now.
I own a home, but I'm not in selling real estate. And
right.
There's a hot market right now, and the market's gone mad.
Oh, it's gone nuts here. It's ridiculous. People are just, what's happening now is they're tearing old houses down to build new houses, but instead of tearing them down, they're recycling, because that's the only way that somebody can afford a home, is to recycle a home. And it's my daughter and her husband have just built a house, and it should have been done in 2019. And because of the delay, they did it in 2020, and the lumber just doubled in price. So
prices of everything have just suddenly gone up here.
Yeah.
Not just houses, but of all the materials that go in. But I had an opportunity to go into real estate a long, long time ago, and I should have done it, because one more to make money, but I'm actually interested in houses and how they can be changed and remodeled, etc.
Well, that's
And
what our mother did. She was very good at that, wasn't she?
yeah, and I should have done it, but decided to be a writer. What a fool I was, you know. So,
Yes, but you also have traveled a great deal. So, you put your money in traveling.
sold a few houses, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you got a
Could have
home.
did it, you know,
So you've got what you wish you known.
that I should have gone into real estate.
Um,
Yeah.
we've done many a show on your books, on writing. We did one completely on, being the author. I remember you coming into my son's class and talking about being a script writer and what, movies was all about. And you just did a funnel and just said, it's all about popcorn. All
Yeah.
about popcorn sales. And you had all these kids, teenagers, they thought they had the next script and this and that. By the end of it, they're totally deflated with the reality of it. But people see something up on the screen and they think, I can do that. And they just don't realize how much work, getting a script sold or getting a book bought. It's all very well getting something great on paper, but then it's what happens after that. And nowadays, I interview many, many authors because whether you're with a publicist or not, they just say, go and get interviewed. They don't do anything for you anymore. And this is why we see so much more self-publishing, because you've got to still do all the work anyway. So,
But it's exceptionally hard to get anything read
mm,
for scripts. It's just, you know,
the gatekeepers, right?
which is why you see the same people constantly writing
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
And so, oh, well, they're a tribe, we know they can do it. Whereas there must be just literally a million great scripts that
Mhm.
no one's going to make a film out of.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
like all of the books that you've written, I mean, the the Hunted, Jenny McGee, the whole series here would make a brilliant movie, and each book would be completely fill, a wonderful hour and a half of a movie, and
yeah,
um, and the Cat Blue is also another beautiful visual one that would be fantastic in that. Repercussions of Thomas D. Imagine what that could be. I mean, all of them could be
I've
made.
already written the script. Already written the script in lockdown. And my next project for the next lockdown,
Sure, stop being so negative.
the repercussions of Jeannie McGee into a script. That'll be my next project.
Right,
I'm not going to do it till I'm forced to back in my room here.
right.
And
No, it's time to take a break, get out there and, see the world out there. I mean, where you're living, there's some fantastic walks along the beaches and sand dunes, and see if all your little vegan restaurants are still alive
none.
out there. No, they all died. Oh.
Yeah, no. Although, yeah, well, yeah, they try to pretend they are, but then they fry everything in butter, and I think, well, that's not very vegan.
We found a wonderful little vegan place, fantastic vegan scones in Louth. Is it still open? Is it
Yeah.
still there? Oh, what a shame.
And yes, there's another place that I really like, but actually, what I'd really like to do is to buy that restaurant and turn it into a home.
Ah, okay.
There's a restaurant I particularly like that used to be a library. They turned it into a restaurant, and I'm like, that's come when I win the lottery.
Right,
That's,
yes, we keep talking about that, but I don't know about, we got to buy tickets first.
yeah. But
Right.
yeah. So anyway, all I'm hoping is that people will discover Mission Longshot and We Feel Your Pain.
Yes.
To the most recent, and I'm hoping people will find them, whether on your site or Sam Hawksmoor. They're all available, singing and dancing.
And the thing is that yes, you write a lot for youth genre, but that's, as far as I'm concerned, it helps kind of bring out the little bit of the youth inside of ourselves, which we forget. And we get to, when you're around youth, the optimism, of that there has to be something better. There's always a solution. We can do this. We kind of lose as we get older. We get kind of jaded, why bother?
I think
Nothing is ever going to happen. And, reading these books is one to kind of remind us of that enthusiasm, that there's always a possibility and a way out if we're willing to take the journey.
the way I look at it, I think I write books for adults that star kids.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
They're
And it's a, like this Forgotten Children series that we're going to be doing is basically, yes, we're addressing the systems that are wrong and what we can do to put it right, but it's also speaking to the inner child, because from all the shows that I've done, around 2000 or more now, a huge common denominator is the inner child within. Child that was either abused or neglected or sickly.
Just think about peer pressure. That's one of the really most harsh
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And here, getting so many kids stabbed, it's just horrendous.
Oh God, yes. And I've had a couple of shows lately on, there's one woman I was meant to interview. We had to change it because her 15-year-old tried to commit suicide due to cyberbullying, and another one did commit suicide because she just couldn't take it anymore. And it's like, what kind of world are we giving them where they feel that's the only option? But unfortunately, we're seeing that as an escalation right now, because all they have is their phones and the social media, and they don't know how to navigate life. And so right now, my show last week was get out into nature. If you've forgotten what it's like, go and watch the puppy dogs chasing a stick or a ball, the kids on their little bicycles learning to ride, people on this, inline skates or paragliding as we've got over here. Get out into nature and to life and remind yourself what living is all about.
And it's also important to become part of a team.
Yes.
I think that's
yes.
very good support mechanism for kids outside of the home.
Yeah. Yes.
Rather a team than a gang is what I would.
Yeah, and the reason why so many go to the gang, because they make it feel like, a home they haven't got until they have to pay the price. And
go and stab someone to prove their loyalty and all that stuff.
I mean, we've got this going on here in Vancouver right now, the gang warfare at the present moment between kind of the Asian gangs, where they're openly taking people out just a few feet away from people sitting outside on a patio with their families, or at the shopping mall, and they don't care who they hurt. They just open up the gun, and that's it. And the youngest was 14, and two brothers have just been killed. And it's like, is this really what living is about, folks? No, it isn't.
And it's not an area I want to write about either. It's just I'd be uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah. I've interviewed a few people that, came from that criminal world. One of them went into it through Oxycontin, and became the dealer. And as he said, when it's sleeping with the gun under his pillow, and he kind of like, what am I doing? How did I get here? And then another guy that was a criminal in England, he went to jail. He was most wanted, but he literally witnessed at the age of 7 in Ireland a young man being shot and dying in front of him, and then having nowhere to go, sent to England into foster care, and then it was the criminal world that enticed him in. So
that happened to me in New York, where this guy shot someone in front of me and then came racing towards me saying, "You saw that, right?" "No."
Well, I remember you and John being held up in an apartment with a gun in your mouth as they're busy robbing you, and they would have killed you had there been.
Yeah, they knocked his teeth out. Yeah.
Right. And they would have killed you had the neighbors not come home.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then you came over to me, and I just had my first daughter, and you wrote this beautiful book about Claire Bear.
Yes.
It was a nanny, and I'd love to see that resurrected. It was a beautiful book.
Yeah, it's of its time, but it's, that would have been nice if that had come out. But anyway, we learn.
So do you have a story in mind for the next book, or are you just simply going to take some time out and see where it comes?
Finished last week.
Right, yes, so you need some time. But I mean, normally you have another story that you want to write, but right now just need a break.
Well, no, this particular one, Mission Longshot, I began in Montreal in 2013. and I was in a coffee shop right opposite where they do Assassin's Creed. And I was there 5 hours, really inspired, and I got that whole plot down, and drinking buckets of coffee, waiting for the toilet to come free. And when it finally did, I went to the loo. When I came back, someone had stolen my coat and my notebook.
Oh no.
And I don't mind, you could take my coat, even though it was -20.
Right.
To take my notebook,
I
I
know.
was absolutely distraught.
And they would probably just chuck it in the garbage.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was. I
Yeah.
looked in garbage
Yeah.
places around there.
Right.
And anyway, but it was just so upsetting, and I couldn't bring myself to try and recreate. You can't.
No.
I'm really under inspiration at that time, and then the next day I was catching a train to Toronto. So anyway, and so it was during lockdown I decided to look at it again, and then through writing the script, and then having a mentor, director called Anna Southgate. And it really helped. And
Yeah.
so I was able to recreate it and add new elements to it.
Right.
One of which was the maintenance bot.
Right.
If you remember your Tom Hanks movie Castaway, where he's talking to
Yes, the ball, Wilson.
Wilson, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so you need a Wilson if you're in just one person.
Yeah. You've got to
alone.
have something to talk
So
to,
the
otherwise
maintenance
you're going to go
bot,
insane. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and so that became my favorite character, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I always love the fact that you have some sort of representation of an animal in there, and how intelligent the animals are, and you know how caring they are, and everything else, and
as the bot says, 2 legs bad, 2 wheels good.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I've read that, but I kind of read it as you were writing it, and you've sent me the pages since then, and you know, I haven't got the book yet, but I'm really glad you wrote that, and I really did enjoy. I always enjoy your writing. You always take me somewhere else, and I was reading your Pain when I was over there last time as you were writing that, and it's like the twists and turns in it, and the intrigue in it, and the merging of the worlds that you do, and how you make it kind of so acceptable, where you know it's not like, oh, this doesn't fit. No, it fits and it makes sense. So you've always been a gifted writer, and I always love reading your books.
That was my little homage to the Raymond Chandler, really. So anyway, so there we go. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you. So people can go to samhawksmoor.com and find all your books and everything there, because they also can find them all on Amazon. And as I said, all they have to do is literally put in on selfdiscoverymedia.com Sam Hawksmoor, books and articles, and all the shows that we've done together are up there, and also all of your books are up there, and all the articles that you've written. And of course, you do have hackwriters.com, the Hackwriters magazine, and many of your articles are on there as well. And sorry?
I deny everything.
And that's 22 years, is it, of Hackwriters?
Yeah, 22 years. Yeah.
Great. Lots of people writing for you as well.
Online, really.
Yeah, exactly. I actually spoke to somebody the other day that started online radio in 95.
Wow.
And you know, but she only does 5-minute shows. So we're going to be working together. Of those 5-minute shows are going to be intros into our long shows. So it's always a merge, right? We can always merge things together. But
it's good to see you, and enjoy your summer.
Yes, you too. And I will be back in England next year. And I should be going to Montreal this year. So finally get to see it after 41 years of being here. I finally get to go up to Montreal and experience it. I'll look for your script while I'm there, okay?
I think it'll be a bit soggy by now.
Yeah, it might be. So folks, you've got so many books here, the latest, all the other ones. You know, it's actually a book that you could read with your teenagers and then have a great conversation about afterwards. And
adults and teenagers talk actually anymore. But
They
anyway,
do, they do, especially if they've got something to talk about. And you know, it's something the whole family can read and have a conversation. What did you think about that? Would you like to be in a different type of dimension? You know, what would you do in this situation? I love things that spark conversation. I love books that stay with me and that make me think, or also make me become one of the characters and fit into that. So here's my beach thing. It comes up in every show. It's kind of where I would like to be.
yeah.
Palm trees on the water and the wind. That's my destination, my bucket list. So,
Oh, well.
and it's gone.
Okay.
All
Be
right. So,
well.
yeah, you too.
And
Folks,
thank you very
please
much.
come out, you know, look at the books, take a read. When maybe not in lockdown anymore, but you know, this is time to take the book off to the coffee house or underneath a tree in the park and read a book in the sunshine and enjoy
Or you
it.
can download on Kindle as well. So
Right, exactly, and read it on your tablet. So thanks, Sam. I
you're
look forward
welcome.
to the next time.
Thank you.
And to everyone else, remember, reading is good. It takes you on a different journey. A movie is wonderful, TV is fantastic, but there's something about a book that takes you somewhere else completely. So don't be afraid to pick up a book and read. It's a wonderful place to be. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank
We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.